That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And tonight, welcome to a very special retrospective in honor of the Bob's Burgers movie. We're going to be breaking down the art of the animated series movie, if you will. This is going to be a discussion kind of going from movie studio to movie studio, if you will, or cartoon studio, I should say. We're going to start with the OGs. We're going to build up to stuff like Nicktoons, Cartoon Network, Disney. We're going to end on adult animation, ending on Bob's Burgers. Now, Dragon, we're looking at this through a few different lenses. Would you like to go over those? Should I?
Yeah, sure. Just one second here. So, folks, essentially the way we're going to look at this are kind of in the following tiers. We're going to kind of look at these, because again, we could talk about these all until we're blue in the face. In many cases, we have already,
Indeed,
So
yeah.
essentially, our spin on it to kind of keep it flowing, and hopefully keep it a little entertaining to you, lovely folks watching us. Essentially, is we're going to kind of look at how accessible they were to kind of a new audience. How the animation was upgraded, which traditionally they are in these cases. And kind of how the stakes and status quo, or kind of address these stakes and status quo of it all, how things are like on the precipice of shifting, or do they shift, or like does something big happen? And obviously kind of how we break the formula with the movie. So kind of those are kind of in general just kind of the things we're going to be kind of looking at when we kind of reflect on kind of the animation greats and the animation not so greats once they hit the big screen. We're not just talking about like the direct to video movie, kids. No, we're talking purely theatrical, the shows that became movies that were so popular, so well received, they broke the mold and into the popcorn house.
Well said. And Dragon, do you know how we're going to be going about this?
How?
Tier style, baby.
What?
Tiers.
What is this?
Bear with me. You know what tier lists are. You know what? I'll even throw you a bone here, Dragon. For the top tier, we're going to go Phantasm. This isn't necessarily a ranking, Dragon, but we're going to put these into tiers. All right. So we have Phantasm at the top. That's obviously like the cream of the crop, the blue meth. We have great. We have solid. We have decent. We have like not terrible, but it could be a lot better. And then at the bottom, we have the Arnold tier.
Well, come on, that's that's slighted against the Hey Arnold movie.
Okay,
Come on,
do you think there's a more appropriate one for the bottom tier?
I didn't. I don't approve any of this tier stuff. What is this? Like, why are we listing again? Why?
I'm experimenting. Hold on.
We're already looking at it through tier, like conversation.
Teen Titans Go tier. Is that better?
I mean, it's like, why do we gotta put it somewhere? Why can't we just talk about them?
Visual aid, my friend. Just go with it. I am literally following a trend right now.
I don't know where to put like the middle chunks of these.
Okay, would it help if we got rid of
I don't know.
Because decent is mediocre, great is great, solid is like, yeah, it's good. And then decent is like, meh.
See, had I known we were doing tiers, I might have restructured how I looked at the movies.
So Transformers.
Yeah.
Do you not want to do this at all?
I mean, I would have liked a heads up. It would have. I
haven't thought seen... the spontaneity would be fun. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I haven't seen most of the adult animated films, Tiki. I'm in no way to just.
I can rank. We can rank the ones that each other haven't seen. There's a few of them that I haven't seen.
That's. If you want to do it, I guess we'll do it because you put us on the spot.
Okay, so Transformers. Obviously, the big thing with Transformers is the status quo shift with not just Optimus Prime, but I believe they kill off a good number of the original cast. Optimus Prime being the big death.
Yeah, I mean the big takeaway with Transformers. I mean, mind you, I'm not a Transformers guy, so I really can't tell you all the ins and outs of what happened during that. But yeah, it is very much we killed Optimus, and it was the gobsmackingly sad death of the '80s. That and again. that basically it still strikes a chord, whether it be animated or not. Like people who saw that in theaters were like, "Oh my god!" It's like it was so shocking. It was like the big shocking animated death. It's like, "Oh god, we've killed the Iron Giant at the end of the movie." Seemingly, it's kind of like, "Oh god, how do we do that?"
Yeah, as far as the animation upgrade goes, from what I can tell, there's not a ton. Like it looks better than the show, but I mean it doesn't have like that kind of fluid animation that like a Class B Cuspo movie does.
That is true. We have to remember it was the '80s though, so this is kind of
No,
like
I know. And with the '80s, it's kind of interesting because we're calling them the OGs for a reason, folks. Because I think with the Class B Cuspo stuff, as we're going to talk about, I think it's fair to say that they kind of basically made the blueprint for what a successful one of these would be, which we'll go forward and track. Let's see, animation upgrade. Dragon Knight, it's fair to say Transformers not the most not the most non-fan friendly movie in the world.
Well, I mean, in regards to a new audience, well, I don't know. I mean, again, I can't really speak from experience rewatching it or anything, but I would say that it's it's probably like gives you a spiel of okay, well, it's the Autobots versus the Decepticons only on the big screen this time.
But I'm just saying, like, just as far as like, I don't think a non-fan would really be excited for it, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. In terms of like introducing it to a new audience, I suppose.
Exactly. Like, if this is your first, like, let me put it this way: if this is your first piece of Transformers media, and it's literally just like all the Transformers that you know and love are dying.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like the whole death toll thing. Yeah, that's something that the fans are probably gonna get more of a kick out of than a general.
Right.
Ideally, if the jobs were done right, it would be like, okay, well, you care about this character you've just met, but still, that's to make it like a big moment. It's going to resonate. So you're going to need to know who those people are.
And as far as breaking the formula goes, I really don't think the movie does that at all because it's just more of the same, like Transformers versus Decepticons.
Well, then again, you killed everyone dying though. That's kind of like we never really killed them off in the show, from what I understand.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, as far as like, yeah,
at the very least, Optimus Prime. I mean,
so with breaking the formula, Dragon, I more relate to breaking the formula. Like, I would say the best example of something like that would be, the Man Called Flintstone, which we'll get to shortly, but also like something like South Park that just literally turned the whole thing into like a big Broadway style Disney Renaissance musical. Like that's breaking the formula. I think the more plot related stuff like the Optimus death, I think probably veer more into the status quo shift category. So with all that in mind, Dragon, if only one tier, I would put Transformers. I'm kind of leaning towards decent.
Well, I mean, I guess. Again, I can't really.
Would you put solid just because of how landmark is with the Optimus death?
Well, I mean, again, I don't really know the movie intimately, Tiki. I don't know where to justifiably put it.
You know what? We're going to put it in decent.
Fine.
All right. All right. Dragon, now let's get to one we can both agree on. Say it with me.
Wait a minute.
The Man Called
Flintstone.
Okay, so this has what we're looking for, Dragon, as far as our formula goes. Definitely shifts the tone and the formula for sure. This is a big departure from what the Flintstones usually does.
Hey, Mr. Spontaneity.
Yes.
I just noticed, hence my hesitation during our In Unison, The Man Called Flintstone, someone didn't use the organizational thing somebody else sent.
Shit, you're right. Okay, I'll fix that. Hold on.
Chaos.
I know, right? Don't you love it?
No!
Okay, I will be fixing that, Dragon, but go ahead. Say your piece on Man Called Flintstone.
Well, I guess now, fine. It was going for like an 80s transition, but fine. All right, yes, The Man Called Flintstone. I love this movie. Fred Flintstone as a spy. You got, feature animation definitely infused with the Hanna-Barbera style. So there's only so far you can really reinvent the animation, but it was like the most crisp the Hanna-Barbera limited style looked. And the biggest thing is that it did not have necessarily the repeating backgrounds as often. They globetrotted, went all over the place. That's a really.
How much would you say the animation upgrade is?
I mean, that's the thing. There's only so much you can upgrade the animation to Hanna-Barbera style, but I would say it's as good as they could do it for the time that it was made, which I believe was in the '60s. So it was the height of which they could do it.
Okay.
Now, it's something to bring up though. It's going to be reoccurring through everything, pretty much. I know most, if not all, of these plots, just given that they were ordinarily released in the summer, there is a summer kind of vacation-y component to so many of these films, right?
A little bit, yeah, for sure. We'll definitely be getting into that.
So you have that, with the Man Called Flintstone, which again might is probably is like the oldest example of a TV show turned movie, by the way, on our list. Just to kind of bring that up.
So it's interesting with the Man Called Flintstone because I definitely think the film noir vibe captures the breaking the formula. How do you feel about it as far as like a status quo shift goes?
A more spy movie than noir, but yeah.
Well, yeah, still, it's got. I mean, to be fair, noir movies are kind of spy centric.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess.
No, you're right. It's different things. You're right. I feel like it blends the two, though. Anyways,
I'm sorry. So, what was your question specifically?
how do you feel about the spy stuff as far as like the status quo shift goes?
Well, that's the interesting thing. When you look at this movie, it is kind of it was intended to be the end of the Flintstones, the show, and they didn't really know if they didn't really know they were coming back. So it was kind of like they allowed Charlie Brown to kick the footballs, and let's just let Fred Flintstone be really cool and get and kind of win at the end of the day. So we do shift the status quo in regards to, okay, Fred Flintstone's actually going to be successful at the end of this, and we're putting him in kind of like the position of kind of an action hero of sorts. So I'd say it's quite significant, the status quo. I
Okay.
mean, but then again, we do go back to where we usually go. But again, we do acknowledge that, oh yeah, he's the big hero now.
And I would say, like, in spite of the fact that it's kind of different from what the show usually is, it is accessible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe not to the slice of life component, but even that's just them on vacation. So and you got to remember though, the vacation thing is something that the Flintstones did often, where they would like go away for the weekend with the wives, the Rubbles and the Flintstones, and they would like hang out someplace. Like, oh, let's go to a hotel. But this hotel staff's trying to price gouge us, something like that.
So, Dragon, what do you think? Right now, I'm leaning towards great, but can you make an argument for Phantasm?
I mean, for me, I can make the personal argument for Phantasm in that, I mean, this movie really shined in how essential it is. Essentially, is a Fred Flintstone, kind of arc, for the show, via an adventure, and we get the really great scenes where we put him in a position to save the world versus the slice of life. But what we're doing is in service of the slice of life, where we showcase the layers of the character. I mean, for me, obviously, I'm always brought to tears. Just I live for the few bits that we get that show the layers to Fred Flintstone. Like he wants out of this thing, and then he's at the park and he sees his daughter, and he's just remembering that like, oh god, he has just that solemn moment where he gets up. He says, Wilma, I gotta go. It's just that beautiful moment of.
All right, you know what? I think he convinced me. I think we're going to put the Man Called Flintstone in the Phantasm tier.
That's the thing. I mean, ultimately, it does kind of wrap up, kind of quickly. One might say, the whole yeah, we're just running through an amusement park. But again, there was a lot of unexpected kind of heart and kind of grabs you. I don't know.
All right, so the Chipmunks Adventure. I think this is a very, very solid entry here. Honestly, I would probably put it as the maybe the best of the OGs that we have. So as far as animation upgrade, it's totally there. As far as status quo shift and also along with status quo shift, I would also say stakes. And I think with Chipmunk Adventure, the stakes are definitely there because it's like this big globe-trotting adventure with lots of danger. Not necessarily much of a status quo shift, but it definitely breaks the formula with with all the adventure. And I would say it is a very solid newcomer friendly movie. I'd say it's kind of the blue meth of Chipmunks, if you will.
Well, I mean, yes, and then the animation upgrade for sure. But I say, I think look at you remember the villains from the Chipmunk movie at all, like Claudia and Klaus?
I do not remember the villains. I'll admit.
That's the thing. They're the element that kind of makes and breaks, and that the animation on them is great. And like there's like there, look at this with the Phantasm-esque quality I could give it. is that, like we're kind of breaking the rules a little bit. We have like adults who are smoking, and like
Uh-huh.
and they're really, that's the thing. They are kind of the thing. It's kind of wonky with the plot. It's a globe-trotting adventure yet again. We're going all over the place. Basically, the rich people are trying to smuggle like blood diamonds and cash through the adventure these two sects of chipmunk are going on. They kind of smuggled the stuff through them as they globetrots. That's essentially what the premise of the film is. So, I mean, yeah, it's in terms of animation, in terms of just kind of again, just like doing stuff with the chipmunks, yeah, for sure. And I believe there is like a little bit of pathos as well along the journey. I will admit though, we do linger a lot on that penguin thing. You remember the penguin, little baby
I
penguin?
do. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, we take a few detours along the trip, but by the same token, though, I mean, I got nostalgia for this thing. I remember watching this thing on VHS when
I
I
got a lot of nostalgia for it, but you do make some good points about the plot. So, given that we have a lot of really good ones coming up, I'm kind of leaning towards the great tier.
yeah, sure, yeah,
Does that sound right?
yeah, the Great Chipmunk Adventure. Why not?
All right. Okay. Okay, Jetsons Dragon, you're gonna have to take the lead on this one. I saw it a couple times as a kid, but I don't really remember much of it.
Hmm. Okay, so the Jetsons movie is, it's definitely, I'm going to go as far as it's the best looking Hanna-Barbera film, barring the Scooby-Doo films, obviously, with the Mook Animation Studio.
I definitely remember the animation upgrade for sure.
That's the thing. It was the most significant. Like the Flintstones
Uh-huh.
again, the Flintstones did the best they could for the '60s. This is like by I believe, God, I can't
I
remember
think
when it
this was
was.
the 80s. I
Yeah,
want to
I
say.
think you're right. I think it was the
Yeah,
'80s. I mean, still, I mean, here's the thing. Here's how you know it was the '80s, because they did like a lot of the '80s music video stuff. Which that's the one.
exactly. Yeah,
See,
yeah. And
unfortunately, the
Judy
Jetsons.
Jetson was like being pushed to be like the next big it girl.
Yeah. So the during that whole like music video montage, they get to play with a lot of animation styles, which was impressive, which was cool. And again, the animation style overall is quite good. Unfortunately, the story's a little wonky. Like I think honestly, the bridge too far is that the Jetsons dealing with aliens or like kind of like alien species. I know we had that little hoppy thing. Well, remember what the little hoppy thing
Yes,
was?
I remember the hobby thing. Yes.
I mean, that's as far as we really went with that
Uh-huh.
from what I recall. But it just felt like, yeah, maybe we
So maybe that's like a break in the formula slash status quo too far.
I would say, yeah, I think
The
so.
next movie that we're going to be talking about is absolutely going to have a negative break in the status quo. We'll get to
Now,
that.
yeah, remember we do. Yes, there's a little bit of a break in the status quo. By the same token, at the end of these, a lot, the status quo is very much restored. Like, okay, well, they've solved the problem, so we're not drilling into their home. So now George Essen goes home to press the buttons at home. Like the whole reason he goes out there's to press a button in a different place. That's all he does.
Huh.
So that's
I'm
the thing.
kind of leaning towards decent with the way you're
No,
describing it.
look. I'm not saying the Jetsons movie's really good. It just looks good. That's the thing.
Would you say
Jetsons
it's
movie.
solid?
I mean, sure. I mean, solid enough. I know. I would put it the lower tier. To be honest, I wouldn't.
You
That
would
it
put it
looks.
in decent?
Yeah, sure.
You wouldn't put it in Teen Titans Go, right?
No, no, I wouldn't. I mean, the story's not great, but at least it looks good, and at least it's like still in the Jetsons. Like the Jetsons are doing what they would
Okay.
do in
I'm
this
going to put it
situation.
above Transformers.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to Tom and Jerry. And Tom and Jerry is going to go right in the Teen Titans Go tier. I don't even care. We don't even have to have a discussion. No, we'll have a discussion, but seriously, like, can you argue that?
Well, no, I can't argue why it's not there. I mean, well, I can't argue why it shouldn't be there because it absolutely should be. The
Good.
only thing I
I'm
want
glad
to
we're in
say with it is that
agreement.
basically the Tom and Jerry movie. They completely missed the point of the property entirely, and like it's so funny that it kind of starts off okay, Tom and Jerry for like the moment we do shake up the status quo in a really effective way. Like we bulldoze the house. The house is gone, so they're forced to team up as they tend to
That's
do.
fine. That you're right. If they would have kept to that, if it would have been maybe like a brave little toaster,
Yeah,
yeah, it does have a little bit of a brave little toaster vibe
little
at the very
bits,
beginning. Yeah,
little bits,
yeah.
and that again, that's kind of enough to grab you for a second. Then we're doing like the team up. We're like, okay, think about it. Tom
Well,
and
then
Jerry,
it's like Dragon.
yeah,
Oh my god! I just remember seeing this as a kid. I vividly remember. It'd be like a family friend's house, and like my parents were friends with their parents, and they watched a lot of. They had a big collection of Disney VHSs, like way more than we had. I remember watching Bambi over at their house for the first time. But I remember seeing the VHS for the Tom and Jerry movie and being blown away. Like, oh my god, there's a Tom and Jerry movie! I was so excited. I was like, okay, like this is going to be like, guys, this is awesome. And I kind of remember the family friends were like, yeah, we'll see. And then the moment that it just killed me, Dragon was just like, I didn't know you could talk. Well, I didn't know. I just had nothing to say. I'm like, no.
It's like what Charlie Chaplin famously said, or at least that scene from the Chaplin movie.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
The moment.
Not only that, that's heresy, but the movie itself is just kind of eh.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem. So, one again, it's like the tramp thing. The moment the tramp talks, he's dead.
Totally,
which is exactly what happened. But also, it's kind of the old comedy principle of the '40s, where it's like, look at all the Abbott and Costello movies, or any of like the Marx Brothers. Well, the Marx Brothers had a lot more focus on them. The point being, you take the classic formula, like, hey, movie with the comedians, which are the draw, but they become the B plot in their own movie because, like, no, it's about the little girl and her father. It's about the it's usually.
Oh God, yeah. Oh.
So that's the biggest trap they fell into, and then that's the thing.
I would almost say that's just as bad as the talking thing, honestly.
So that's the thing. Ultimately, it starts off like again, just that bulldozer bit, like then we get into like Tom and Jerry being buddies, which I like that when that happens, and it never lasts long, but I like it when it happens. And unfortunately, once that happens, they start singing and dancing, and that's just all sorts of wrong.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Oh man! All right. Well, we got through the OGs pretty quickly. It's time to get to the next, the big batch of kind of the more iconic ones. So, Dragon, let's go to the Nicktoons. Let's start with the first two Rugrats movies. I feel like we can kind of crack them out. Like they're kind of like bred from the same cloth. First and foremost, Dragon, I'm going to ask you just the big question of the evening: which is better, the Rugrats movie or Rugrats in Paris?
Well, I mean, in terms of how we're looking at it here, in terms of like what kind of best sells, the Rugrats, I mean, they're both very much like getting out of the flow of the show. Okay, so the first movie is more in line with the Rugrats usually is, but I think Rugrats in Paris is the better film.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
I think Rugrats in Paris has the advantage of going above and beyond as far as breaking the formula, breaking the status quo in a number of ways. Not only do we get Kira and Kimmy introduced, but we also have Chucky's first word, which was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it starts off perfectly with that Godfather parody.
Of course. Oh, God. And I just love the Godfather. I love the real world implications of the Godfather parody, Dragon. That Angelica
watched that movie.
Angelica watched the movie and it just fucked her up, but she doesn't quite know how to comprehend it.
Yeah.
The Rugrats movie, I would say, is great. I would put that in the great tier. I'm leaning Rugrats movie great tier, Rugrats in Paris Phantasm tier. I think Rugrats, like, the Rugrats movie almost gets there. I think it definitely has the status quo shift with Dill. Honestly, as far as breaking the formula goes, I do think Rugrats movie is unfortunately one of those films where, outside of the drama with Dill, which is potent, I think the actual storyline with them getting lost in the woods is kind of like, it kind of falls into I think it's the first example of what we're going to be talking about with falling into the trap of basically just feeling like an extended episode of the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, okay, here's the thing. So with the first Rugrats movie, the problem with me with that film is that it kind of exemplifies the things I get tired of with the Rugrats, like some of certain, like, which again feeds into the whole, like, the pattern of the TV show. But again, it does have the dramatic flair of like, okay, so when we're really you feel the stakes. You feel the stakes of, okay, this is a little worse than usual.
I mean, there's that one scene with Tommy and Dill that gets me every time.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you also have just the fact of like, okay, people are actually, the media is actually taking notice of how bad a pickles are, really, when you think about it. And that's what I'm saying. There is there's more attention kind of drawn to it. And again, the animation style obviously does look at its best. I think it's never going to.
I think Class B Bow is like it's honestly kind of like an enigma how their TV looks kind of shitty and then their movies look amazing.
Well,
like I don't know how they do it.
Well, you
I
gotta remember.
honestly think it's just because they have really damn good lighting and shading in their
Well,
movies.
well, yes, Tiki, but you got to remember the reason why. The Tiki is a very simple reason why all these movies, at least for the most part, look better than than the shows. Is that they have an extended budget that goes into like that lighting and shading and everything. 'Cause
No,
lighting and shading.
I understand that, Drag, but I'm just saying, like stylistically, like these are not very visually appealing characters.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You're right. I think what you're trying to say is that yes, the lighting and everything makes them look their best, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
unfortunate that they can't get the budget to do that on the regular. Which unfortunately shows like Family Guy now can do that on the regular, which just depresses me.
All right, so are you? Let's see. Anything else to say about those first two movies?
I mean, again, the first Rugrats kind of like it tugs at the heartstrings, but again, it just has a lot of had kind of a lot of guff and just the stuff that like from the Rugrats
Do you
premise.
think
That
it's above or below Chipmunks?
no, it's still above. Yeah,
I
I
would
mean,
put it above Chipmunks. Yeah,
yeah, I'd put it above Chipmunks, but anyway, but again, Rugrats in Paris though it has the
I'm
Chucky
going to put
through line.
Rugrats in Paris in first place for now.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, so Rugrats in Paris. I mean, you have the Chucky through line, which is just like just the crux of that story, and it's very powerful. Again, so
Such a good idea to give Chucky his own movie, essentially.
and that's the thing. Giving Chucky his own movie, we really do that. That is kind of a ground floor into that character because you kind of get who that character is fundamentally, and that okay, he's a scaredy cat, but he's also missing his mother, and it's like
And
we
of
kind of
course,
round that.
it's a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And we have like Chaz Finster as the single father who's kind of feeling
I
a little
was
bit
a
of that.
willow.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. We have a lot of genuine pathos, and everything is communicated very well from the get go of that film. And again, they can build like to a sense of drama. And yes, it's bigger than
And
life.
then, of course, the awesome theme park setting.
That's what I'm
Can't
saying. Like
forget that.
you have bigger than life aspects for sure in
Uh huh.
Rugrats in Paris. Very much like a Superman 2 versus a Superman 1, if you will. But by the same token, there's still like something kind of be said amidst all that. The heart of it is still very is still very genuine. It's still very much like that character running through the church saying his first word. That's a big moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, it has Chucky Chan, which is an awesome sequence.
All right, Rugrats Go Wild. I think that's definitely a tougher nut to crack.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I don't necessarily. Okay,
I
well, I don't
like
necessarily.
it. I do like it. I honestly do think that as a crossover, it works. I think all the characters are in character, which is pretty important. I think that the babies crossing over with Nigel Thornberry, like honestly, works better than it should. I'm leaning towards solid on this one, Dragon.
I don't. I wouldn't go solid. I'd go
You
either
wouldn't go
decent.
solid. You'd go decent.
I let me put it this way: the most generous I'm going to be is giving it decent because I mean with
We're going
Rugrats.
decent. I have to put it at the top of decent.
Well, I guess I mean I don't know. I guess either that or Jetsons, but sure, fine. Um,
You want me to put it above Jetsons?
I mean, what I don't know, just put it at decent somewhere and put it above Transformers. I don't know where you want to.
Okay.
Regardless, um, the Rugrats Go Wild. Here's the thing: it was kind of like too many years too late ultimately when they did that. And I think if I recall, it was like their way of rounding out everything, like kind of the end of the Rugrats into the Wild Thornberries. I think. But it was like the whole gimmick of the scratch and sniff and everything. I remember seeing in theaters and the whole you scratch the guard now. Yeah, it was. I don't know.
Yeah, you mentioning the scratch and sniff gimmick that kind of
That's what I'm
seals
saying. The
it.
whole
I'll put
movie
it below
felt
Jetsons.
very gimmicky, and it felt like this would have been cooler had it been done kind of when the shows were in their heydays. And I like, man, yeah, the Rugrats are kind of still clinging around there, aren't they?
Uh huh. I feel you.
We were kind of drifting
I
out.
still think as a crossover, it works pretty well. I honestly really like all the adult Rugrats characters in this movie. I think they work really well.
Yeah.
Um, okay, Wild Thornberry's movie. This one I think is honestly kind of underrated, and I do think it checks a lot of the boxes that we're looking for. The stakes are high. It has a definite status quo shift moment with her telling Deb about the powers. Definite animation upgrade. I think it's probably kind of like a Blue Meth equivalency of the show. Draken, I'm not going to go Phantasm, but I'm definitely tempted to put it at great, and I'm honestly kind of tempted to put it above the Rugrats movie.
Yeah, we definitely got to put it in the great category, I suppose. But it's definitely above Chipmunks, and yeah, I mean, It is a better story than the Rugrats movie, so sure, why not?
Yeah, I think it feels like there's a lot more at stake here. I think it's got a better villain. Uh and I do like Eliza's arc in it. I like how she I like the boarding school stuff. I like the shenanigans with Darwin in the boarding
So yeah,
school.
I gotta be honest, the boarding school's the reason it's not Phantasm for me.
I I think the boarding school is like one of the weaker elements of the movie, but I don't dislike it.
All right.
I don't know, just because I like Darwin so much.
Oh yeah,
Anyways,
we all like Darwin. Tiki, I just it's like I don't necessarily need to see him like he in boarding school, sure, but like Eliza in boarding school kind of takes the teeth away. Man, we're just kind of lingering in this boarding school here, aren't we?
okay. SpongeBob. Is it safe to say he's number one so far?
Uh, well, what do you mean?
Like top of the Phantasm tier?
Yeah. SpongeBob's Phantasm tier. Yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, I think it blew everyone away back in the day. Um, Again, I feel like it kind of, honestly, the only thing it doesn't really tick off is the status quo shift, but I don't really think it matters. I certainly think the stakes are high. And it's obviously a super accessible, like, I truly think the SpongeBob movie is pretty much the blue meth of SpongeBob, if you will. It really is like just the greatness of SpongeBob encapsulated into a 90-minute film. Um, like I said, the animation upgrade is certainly there.
Yeah, it does shift the status quo. I mean, again, that movie, as it feels like, and I think in our hearts and minds, that's where SpongeBob ends because you have a second Krusty Krab, which you never
Sure,
see it anywhere else
definitely,
in the
yeah.
show. But it's the ridiculous idea of he franchised right next door.
But yeah,
So
I think everything I think definitely it breaks the formula by having it be a musical, having the pirate interludes. It really works. It really works quite well. It's a very grand movie. Neptune is a great villain.
is huh? Well, does three songs constitute a musical?
I would constitute SpongeBob as a musical. Yeah,
Well, yeah. Plus, I guess you have the opening theme, so I guess it's four. So I don't know. All
yeah,
right.
you have like three or four.
Okay, I guess that makes it. Regardless, but yeah, so the SpongeBob SquarePants movie is utterly fantastic. I mean, it's very funny. It is the most poignant. Again, it's kind of like looking at SpongeBob being very much a totem for childhood, and just kind of like examining that, and that he wants to move up in the world, but no one's giving him a shot because they're kind of writing him off. And honestly, it's a great road movie where they're driving around a giant Krabby Patty, the Patty Wagon, which is awesome. And the live action pirates just are perfect. It's like the perfect framing
Oh,
device. Just
absolutely.
ties into
I
the whole.
love the live action pirates. They really make the movie for me.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's the fact that like SpongeBob dies on screen, the pirates are bereft, and oh, I guess
I mean,
yeah.
just
Ultimately,
what a way to open a movie, man. It's like, here's the thing. It's like, I remember when I saw the movie in theaters, I was like at the age where I was like a little embarrassed to go see the SpongeBob movie. And then as soon as that pirate bit happened, as soon as the pirate bit, where they open the chest and they're like, "Do my eyes deceive me? Tickets to the SpongeBob movie." I
you
was like,
know,
"Oh yeah, I'm where I belong. I'm where I belong."
just to give credit where credit's due, man. It's kind of hard to kind of nail down per se, but it's the like the sound design on there's like kind of like it just feels like a feature. It feels like everything's just been upgraded even beyond like the visual. It just feels like you hear
Totally,
a sound.
totally.
It's like it's just you hear the scale, and you have like just the build of like Dennis coming after him. And of course, the biggest thing we haven't talked about with the integration of live action like the Pirates, we have Hasselhoff. We have
Oh
like
my god,
versus like
yeah.
like a speeding train in the form of a David
One of the
Hasselhoff.
all-time great celebrity cameos in any movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, unfortunately, we fried the poor guy, but yeah,
All right. So,
yeah.
Dragon, let's get into Disney. And Disney's had a little bit more of a rough patch.
Well, the best transitional point in this case.
So, Doug, yeah,
So Doug's first movie, I think it was one
fair
of
to
my
say it's
first.
going in the Teen Titans tier.
Well, easily yes, but I was gonna say
Okay,
something else. I was
go
gonna say
ahead.
yeah. So the Doug's first movie, ironically, was one of my first movies. Believe it or not,
That's funny.
it was Doug, Toy Story 2, and Inspector Gadget. Those are the three movies of the year for me.
Well, one of those three is good. Inspector Gadget. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so I mean, at the time, I'd watched Doug. I had no honestly at this juncture, I really did not know they had made the move. I saw Doug stop coming on. I did not know it really moved to Disney. I mean, maybe it had been like, oh, more Doug. I just didn't pick up on the fact that oh no, it was on a different channel and they're advertising it. So when I saw the movie, it's like, yeah, man, this feels a lot different than I was thinking. Like, okay, we've upgraded the animation theatrically, and you realize like, oh, it's not just that. Like, no, this is like the Disney version of Doug, which is nowhere near as interesting or slice of life and just kind of comfy. This is just like, and Doug's essentially in like he's in a rom com all the time, and we thrown a monster into this rom com, and this is not good.
Would you say it's fair to say it's worse than Tom and Jerry?
I mean, no, it's not as bad as Tom
Yeah,
and
I
Jerry.
agree. I agree.
I mean, look, the Doug story. I want to be clear. It's kind of on brand for Doug. It just feels like a weird mix of like Doug doing a monster movie as his first movie, but that's because
And then the monster movie is like, what's weird is that they're basically doing the monster movie and then also kind of like having it be like the that one Christmas special with Pork Chop. Like it's kind of giving me that vibes of like, defending the innocence.
Well, sure, yeah, and that is the whole like everyone thinks, if I recall, everyone thinks Doug's crazy, and he's kind of a boy who cried wolf situation with the monster. But really, honestly, I think what it is, I think the reason we have like a monster plot period is that it's like they're terrified they're simply terrified of we can't do slice of life on the big screen. We just simply can't do it. We have to spice it. Throw a monster in there. I want, like, give me some looks at the creature from the Black Lagoon, but goofier. Like, do it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, not a ton to say on that one.
Yeah,
I totally agree about being thrown off the first time I saw Disney Doug, man. I mean, Disney Doug is just an enigma.
Yeah.
Okay, DuckTales. DuckTales is an interesting one because basically you get fooled into thinking the animation has been really upgraded throughout the whole thing. But honestly, it's just the first sequence, and the first sequence basically looks as good as like Rescuers Down Under or something. And then after that, it's like, yeah, it's an upgrade, but it's not quite like a big theatrical upgrade as far as the animation goes. I will say the DuckTales movie definitely has a lot of stakes and payroll for sure. Christopher Lee is Murloc Dragon. I would say that is like the lost great Christopher Lee performance. I mean, my God, he is so intimidating as Murloc in this movie, Dragon. He's scary. Like, not quite Judge Doom scary, but like up there. Let's see. I mean, I do think it's absolutely accessible for fans. It's the first DuckTales media I ever saw, and it made me basically a DuckTales fan for life. So, it did its job there. I think it gives all the characters their due as far as like, Launchpad gets a big crashing sequence right at the beginning. Beakley gets to shine in some moments. You get the dynamic between the nephews and Webby. Scrooge, of course, is front and center. So yeah, I now that I think about it, I don't know. Where are you leaning on this, Dragon?
Well, two things. One, you might want to deal with. There's a thing in the comments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Anyway, yeah. So DuckTales. A fun fact.
Oh, what the fuck is that?
Well, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm deleting all that shit. Sorry.
Be a little subtle about it, but yes.
Block user.
Right.
Okay.
So Alan Burnett, the great Batman the Animated Series alumni, the man essentially the godfather of Batman and animation, he wrote this, and I don't know. There's definitely this one definitely does feel like that whole like it just feels like episodes of the TV show, but it does have kind of that upgraded kind of like scale to it, to a degree. It's in terms of like where to put it. I mean, we're not really.
I'm kind of thinking solid.
Yeah, solid. Yeah, solid sounds right.
Yeah, sure. You like solid?
I don't have anything there yet. Why not? Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, because that means more than decent. Because again, it was kind of it was kind of big for its day, and is kind of well regarded once people see it. And the story's good. It's just not quite on the same tier as like kind of the more phantasmy films that we have.
Sure. Okay, Recess, man. This is a tough one because I feel like you and I both have a lot of personal attachment to this one.
That we do. Yes.
I mean, instantly, I want to put it in. I want to put it in Phantasm tier. Dragon. Can we make arguments against it being in Phantasm tier?
Well, let's see. So we have a really good representation of the characters,
Uh-huh.
and we have an opening that gives us a sample of what the status quo is with what the Recess Gang is usually up to,
And
and
then, of
all
course,
that.
the big shift in the status quo is it taking place over the summer, the breaking into the school thing, that whole thing. James Woods is the villain.
Yep, and I love our '60s flashback. By the way, just
Oh
James
my
Woods
god, yeah.
is so great as Phil. God, I love Phil.
And we just this whole movie is basically a deep dive into Prickly. Like he's kind of the main character of the whole
I
thing.
mean, that's my favorite element of. I've always loved Principal Prickly, and this movie is a big reason as to like why he's always jumped out at me as much as I always kind of liked him, but I loved him. This is where I thought, oh my god, everything I've ever kind of liked about this character, it's just bloomed into a
Uh-huh.
full on love fest because of his dynamic with TJ and just kind of having TJ and him kind of locked in a cage for a bit and kind of like talking through kind of their issues and it's the fact that Prickly, again, he was a kid at heart, but he was forced to grow up, which TJ obviously is trying to fight against here, especially during the whole summer vacation of it all. And yeah, just ultimately, Reese's Schools that absolutely could have been a send off to the show if they really wanted to, because again, it's essentially it is, where it's like, they're walking off. So I'll see you next in the next grade. Essentially, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Kind of breaking away for the summer. There's a great element of finality to it. I mean, if you look at it as like as essentially as an ending, with that status quo shift, I mean, it is quite, phantasmy, in that regard. It's like I can't. Can you think of a bit that really holds it back to you? Let me
No, I
ask you
really
that.
can't. I'm pretty convinced that it's going in
Because the
Phantasm.
only thing I have is that, well, again, it's not really set during the school, and it's during the
But
summer.
that
But a
breaks the
lot of things,
formula though.
I know that's the thing. So
Yeah.
because of that, I mean, I don't think we really have anything against Recess, and the animation quality's through the
So
roof. I
I'm
mean,
thinking it's gonna go below Rugrats, but above Man Called Flintstone. Is that fair?
uh, yeah, sure. I mean, an argument could be made for it to be above Rugrats in Paris, but I don't know. I mean,
I
well,
honestly think it might be the better written of the two, but I think Rugrats in Paris just has more going on as far as like, being a big status quo shift with the theme park
I mean,
and
ultimately, we're moving the moon, but we do not have like giant fighting robots, so I guess we can't put it above Rugrats in
right,
Paris.
right. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put Recess Schools out right now.
Also, the music choices were really good in Recess Schools out too, just to get
Oh
that
yeah.
in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Teacher's Pet.
Yeah, so Teacher's Pet again, as we just said with Recess and everything, again, very much feeling like a summer release. It's set basically the lead readies are going on vacation to Florida. This flirted with a very huge status quo shift and is the ending to the series. The whole like dog going to a dog to boy transformation, which turns into a dog to Nathan Lane. But yeah, it is quite it's hilarious. How they're kind of parroting Pinocchio with that, by the way, which always entertained me. Of course, the Kells, man, the freaking Kells is in this. Is Ivan Crank, and he gets a song too. He's a
I
villain
do.
song.
The big thing I remember about this is all the music in it, which
Yeah,
really did kind of elevate it.
yeah, it's got an operatic scale in places with that music too.
I don't know, man.
Well, I know. Look, we can't. Obviously, we're not going to put in Teen Titans Go. We know that much. I don't think we can't put it at Phantasm, so that kind of limits it.
I'm leaning towards solid, honestly. I'm leaning towards like maybe above DuckTales.
Yeah, but let's put above Ducktales. Yeah.
Okay, because I think that DuckTales maybe had more of an impact, but this is just like it is solid all the way around. The jokes are solid, the writing's solid, the songs are solid. I don't really think it does anything amazing, and honestly, as a fan of the show, I don't really feel or I'm sorry, as someone who's not really a fan of the show, I don't really feel drawn to like go back and watch it, but I'm sorry, is it just Teacher's Pet? Is there no
Yeah.
movie? I'm just couldn't call it Teacher's Pet.
Right.
All right. Okay, and then let's see, what do we have left? We have
I believe we
yeah, we're done with Disney. Okay, let's move on to Cartoon Network Dragon. Let's see.
You know, we probably, in retrospect, we probably should have called Phantasm Blue Meth. In all honesty.
Do you want to change it? I can
Oh
change
yeah,
it.
yeah. Let's change. It's a little late
Okay.
now. This is the dangers of spontaneity.
All right. Blue meth. All right. So I'm assuming you want to put Phantasm and Blue Phantasm. Blue meth. You want to put Phantasm with the blue meth tier, I'm assuming.
Yes, put it at the top. Yep.
Put it at the top. Okay. Dragon, why does Mask of the Phantasm deserve it to be at the top?
Okay. Well, for stars, first feature
I'm
length.
literally just going to mute my microphone and let you, like, I'll be listening, but go ahead. I expect this to be a monologue.
Well, for starters, the first feature, animated superhero film, which already is kind of an honor in itself. It was very big for the time because I think up to this point, technically, if I even this is right, I mean, the Fleischer Supermans, I believe, were released like serials in theaters. I could be wrong about that. So yeah, this was just big in that regard. I mean, it's always the simplest kind of measure of the success of Mask of the Phantasm for me. The best way I've always been able to put it is that it's the blue meth version of Batman the Animated Series, as in it's doing what essentially you want any of these movies to do. Kind of the movies that we're talking about here when they're making the leap from the small screen to the big screen. Is that okay? We've given them the appropriate budget, not an exuberant budget, but just enough. And you see every dime on screen. We got Dong Yang and Spectrum, which are already fantastic animation studios. They're already doing a phenomenal job with Batman the Animated Series, with a little extra spit and polish on it. And in doing so, it's something just truly to marvel. It's got kind of that style that now retroactively, again, it holds up just as well as it did back then, because there's kind of like that, the whole timeless setting, the cell dirt on the screen, the cell animation. It looks great, but you have like a little added oomph with the opening kind of CG cityscape with Gotham City during like the amazing Shirley Walker score, which puts you in just the right headspace, right tone. And the reason it's got to be at the top here, because in terms of going through all the boxes here, so it's a real Batman story. It debatably is the best of all the Batman movies, given it was released theatrically. If you want to stack them up to each other, debatably, it's kind of tackling kind of a Batman Begins sort of thing, where again it's like we're kind of like Batman Begins, we're going through the origin, but we're doing it kind of like a Citizen Kane flashback esque approach here with our flashback style and how he meets Andrea Beaumont. So it's like from the beginning, Batman the Animated Series, their mission statement was we don't want to just like do an origin and like just show him like build the suit and everything and just show him like like the parents getting murdered like directly, like we're going to show how to traumatize them. We aren't going to like do all of that. So they kind of found a way of like looking into the early years without sort of look into the early years without just like telling everything in a straightforward manner of like, okay, well, we have to, like, this is the first movie, like, no, this is Batman being accused of murder. The stakes are high. This is not like Gordon's like, Gordon's not really in our story because like he's not going to hunt down Batman. He knows better. Good for him. And the biggest thing this movie has going for it too is in terms of like just to show you a lot different than kind of our small screen version, but kind of like the better version of it. It's kind of unofficially a PG-13 film in which the animated series, while not ever really hindered by BS&P because they always found creative ways around it, they were able to get away with everything at that time, which later on, Kids WB and everything, they were Kids WB and everything, they were they were able to do. Like they could have blood, they could have handguns, they could have death. There's a lot of death in this movie. We kill mobsters left and right. We have some suggestive material. Like there's like she stayed overnight. She's wearing a shirt. It's broken glass. You get the idea. So it's yeah. So it's let's see. And also, again, it's kind of an aspect like a lot of these where if Batman the Animated Series like had ended here, it still would have been like the perfect high note in which we have like Bruce Wayne going through an emotional arc that kind of puts everything in perspective. The Joker's ambiguously dead as he tends to be. He had a great final epic showdown with Batman. And you just again you can go into this even if you had never seen Batman the Animated Series or the character of Batman and feel represented, like who is this character? What does he do? Okay, he fights monsters, he fights crime. It's kind of the universally recognized symbol of iconography, and you get an adventure and a little backstory on Batman. You get a little bit of everything, and it stands on its own. You have a cool character in the Phantasm. It all kind of works, is my point.
All right, well said, Dragon. Well said. I don't really know why we're being invaded by fucking bots right now, but whatever. will do our best to ignore it. I'm sorry about that, folks. Okay, so yeah, Phantasm definitely earns its place at the top of the blue meth tier. Dragon, should we be cute and name the bottom tier the Chili P tier?
Well, I mean, yeah, okay, we probably should, but also think there's kind of an echo you might want to plug in or something.
Okay, hold on. One sec. Okay.
Yeah, the Chili P.O.
All right, Dragon, talk about Zombie Island.
Yeah, so Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. It's kind of fun. We ultimately probably could have had a Hanna-Barbera tier, but only would have been 3 movies, so we kind of reconfigured that. So the point being, though, when I think of Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island, I'm thinking Cartoon Network anyway. The Warner Brothers of it all. Anyway, kind of the Phantasm equivalent for Scooby-Doo. One could say, it's the first time we've it's a big status quo shift, and it's the first time we're dealing with real monsters, which is like a huge monolithic event in Scooby Doo, and it's a very well depicted in which, like, oh god, Fred's going to do the unmasking, and he removes a zombie's head. That's amazing. So they really went for it with the Zombie Island, and there's like no good people. We have pirates who are they're kind of the victims, but they also kind of did terrible stuff to our to the descendants of the werecats. So it's kind of there's kind of like there's an element of like moral ambiguity at play as well, and we're doing a lot of things that we have tried to ape in later years with how we've tried to kind of give Scooby-Doo the feature treatment. Like we have the gang kind of splitting up in a far nicer way, mind you, but they're splitting up. And they're coming back together for adventures, and again, we're doing real monsters and everything. Blueprint for like the live action films, which they never got right. And Mook Animation, just again top tier, very much kind of an overseas studio, which again which is what Batman the Animated Series does. Essentially, all their studios are essentially overseas, and delivers really good results. I mean, I think categorically it has to be on the Phantasm level behind I think I would say one behind Phantasm, but I don't know if you want to say SpongeBob would be over Scooby Doo or not.
Okay, you know what? Let me bring this to your attention because I'm not I didn't want to bring it up just because it fills out the Cartoon Network tier. But Dragon, technically, I don't think this was theatrical.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure. I don't want to diminish it because it is fantastic. And I do think it belongs on the Phantasm tier just because it is included. I'm not just going to say it's just, automatically disqualified. I don't want to put it above SpongeBob.
I think it was theatrically released, though, Tiki. I might be wrong. I could have sworn it was.
Well, do you want me to give it a Google try?
I would like to. Yes.
Hold on one sec. I'll even do it via the smartphone.
Because my instincts too were that it was direct to video, but we did that whole theme month, and I'm pretty sure I could have sworn we highlighted that it was theatrical.
Hold on. Was Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island released theatrically?
Here is information from Wikipedia.
Let's see. It was distributed by Warner Home Video. Yeah, I don't. I mean, that didn't necessarily answer the question full stop, but I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry.
Talk into the phone to answer.
Hold on. Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island released direct to video.
It was?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Well, I feel silly now. I wish we would have double checked, but yeah.
Okay, so.
No, well, never mind everything I said. Then we'll need to count it.
You don't want to count it?
Well, I guess not. If it's not theatrical, is the purpose.
I still think it's very top tier, though. Basically, Dragon, I just wanted to round out the Cartoon Network stuff, but that's okay. Yeah. All right, Powerpuff Girls. I feel like this one is kind of a hidden gem, don't you?
Yes, it is.
I don't think I'd put it in the Phantasm tier, but I'd certainly put it in the great tier. I think that it is very much first of all, I really do like the origin story. And then on top of the origin story, we just kind of have the dark tone, which I feel like is this movie's real calling card for people who do know of it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's kind of like, a lot of people made the joke that Zack Snyder should do the Powerpuff Girls movie. You know, like a remake.
I wouldn't go that far.
No.
But
I mean, well, I mean, based on like the citywide destruction. That's the main.
Sure.
That's the main thing. But I mean, that's the thing though. It's like this is McCracken's take on the superhero origin, you know, on the big screen, and you know, it's kind of funny that he did thread the needle in the whole Mojo Jojo being there and being responsible for.
All the Mojo stuff is perfect. I think it works really well in the context of the rest of the series.
Yeah, and again, that's something he brought from the show to the movie. So I was like, I remember in the theater watching that, and for me, Powerpuff was the one I was self-conscious of seeing. By the way, like SpongeBob, I didn't have any of that with, but this was like, oh man, Powerpuff Girls, and I want to see it, but you know,
right.
I ended up seeing it, but I felt uncomfortable. Like,
yeah.
Regardless, yeah, it was. You know, you had the, sorry, what was it? Sorry, but yeah, the point being, like, I was watching in the theater, and I was thinking, like, he better be responsible for that chemical. They better not have retconned that. And it's kind of yes and no. Yes, it's like no, they didn't retcon it, but yes, in that. Well, wait a minute. That whole JoJo episode is the Professor Utonium realizing that the monkey and Mojo Jojo were one and the same. And I mean, technically, he is different enough that maybe he didn't realize it because he hasn't realized in the movie. But it seems awfully, if they had this big like confrontation that soon. Plot hole. I don't know. Regardless, very minor. The big thing that this movie does, the show has, but never does it as like on full display as this movie did. Professor Utonium is the girl's father versus
totally.
Like fully like seeing like this guy just kind of embracing fatherhood for the first time, like that. You know, like I believe he runs out to buy the birthday gifts. Is that? Like, yeah, bits like that, and also seeing this poor guy like carted away and jailed for creating the monsters, essentially, and he's, you know, they're like he's on the big screen TV as they're walking home, all sad and everything.
Yeah, I mean the stakes in this movie are very potent, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they destroyed.
Whereas I would argue, I'm looking at the great tier, and I would argue the Wild Thornberry movie. The stakes in the movie are certainly personal, but I don't think they're like life threatening necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit where, you know, the girls like they go to the moon like because they're so despondent. You know, they fly all the way there. And
that is honestly the bit in the movie that has stuck with me.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I'm convinced. I think it's going on the top of the great tier. What do you think?
Well, it's definitely on the top of the great tier. You don't think it'd be behind the Man Called Flintstone, do you? Like, what do you think? You think
honestly?
What?
Honestly, I'd be tempted to bump the Man Called Flintstone down to great and put this up on Blue Meth.
I wouldn't go that far with it.
You wouldn't go that far?
I mean, at the very least, we're not putting the Man Called Flintstone in the great category.
Okay.
Well, yeah, okay. Look, maybe I'm being maybe you're right. Maybe.
Yeah, I just think the Man Called Flintstone, it's just so early on in the, you know, in the formation of the genre, you know.
Yeah, I guess. But
so I'll put it at the top because it's certainly good, but
yeah.
Okay. And this is why I like having these tier lists, Dragon. I think this is long overdue for us. I think it leads to good discussion. Okay, and then we have the Powerpuff Girls movie going on Blue Meth. Okay, and that leads us to oh god, Teen Titans Go to the Movie, aka
P.
I'm not convinced it should go in Chili P.
Oh, come on, really?
I think it's decent. I think it's decent just on the basis of how meta it is, and I really like the idea of Robin like kind of having this struggle to get his own movie. I don't know. I don't think it's bottom tier just because I do think there's enough meta gags. Yeah.
It's living on meta gags, all right?
Fine. The more I talk about it, I'm going to put it above Doug's first movie, though, at least, all right?
Put it at the top, but it's still, that's what I'm saying. Here's the thing I can say about Teen Titans Go to the Movies, all right? It's popularity basically resulting in a feature. That's mainly what's happening there. And it's here's the thing. It's not fixing anything from the TV show, but the only thing in its corner is that all the superhero kind of studio stuff, the stuff that is not related to Teen Titans Go, is good. which is frustrating. You know, you have like the Nick Cage Superman and everything, you know, and like the big status quo shift is like, okay, we're doing Slade finally, which is again somewhat serious, but by the same token, we can't really go serious with it all. So he's gonna make kind of Slade just the one calling the Teen Titans out on how kind of dumb they are. Unfortunately, the problem with Teen Titans Go is that they've reached the point of just complacency where it's like, no, we just don't care. Yeah, we are stupid. Like they're making the stupid troll faces every which way you go, and they don't care. Robin just is smartening up to, man, I really hate being in this position. And it's like, why am I watching this though? So it's just what irritates. I'll tell you what irritates me. It hurts my feelings about Teen Titans Go the movies. It's ridiculous that this movie gets the return trip from the superhero films, like the official, like not counting the Incredibles, like the superhero film that comes back to the big screen is since Phantasm, because unfortunately the biggest thing we probably should highlight with these two, by the way, is that I just realized something. We missed a movie because
what did we miss?
The Hey Arnold movie.
Oh, we did. Oh,
because
shit.
you cut this. The stupid tier list thing is all right.
Okay, we'll double back around to Hey Arnold movie. Honestly, I think it's probably going in Chili P, but
okay. Well, still, regardless, the thing is with Teen Titans Go movies, it's just ultimately where I'm sorry. What I was getting at is it's ridiculous that Phantasm, because we're not backing these movies. It's like, hey, we're going to put the shows in theaters, but you know what? We're not going to advertise to the people who are watching the shows that the movies are going to be in theaters. Because of that, it was so rare and never happened again. Like because Phantasm was so good, but no one went to see it because it was never properly advertised, which is the story that happened with a lot of these movies ultimately. Then years later, Teen Titans Go in the age of like the media following and everything, it's like, hey, everyone and their mother's going to know about Teen Titans Go. Of course, everyone's going to see it, and that comes out before Spider-Verse. If only Spider-Verse could have been the big return movie. Came out the same year. If only Spider-Verse could have gotten the summer release. If only that would have been a proper, like we went from Phantasm to Spider-Verse, the big two, Batman, Spider-Man. Yeah.
Okay, so Hey Arnold, I'm honestly my initial reaction was going to be Chili P, but I think there's just enough there to put it at the bottom of the decent tier.
Yeah.
Like I would even put it below Transformers. And literally, I think the only thing there is the big Helga thing.
I mean, yes, you have that in terms of like the big, well, again, even though she kind of doubles back on it, but it's there. Yes. I mean, for me though, the thing that elevates the Hey Arnold movie, while ultimately, again, it feels like, hey, we should have given the theatrical treatment to, the Jungle movie, in which this one should have been like a TV movie. I love the stakes of the film. I love like the neighborhoods can be bulldozed. Like those are stakes that and we have that creepy opening to the Hey Arnold movie, which I always loved, where you have like the classic Jim Lang music playing. And you see the insides of these neighborhoods in kind of a haunting way, and then bulldozer crashes in and takes down a building. Mm-hmm. Like there's something effective about that, and also like the creepy bit of like the bad guy of the film as well. I believe I don't want to just say Shrek. I think it's something Shrek, and I don't know if it's necessarily that, but it's kind of, I keep thinking like Max Shrek from Batman Returns. I don't know if that's it or not. But the point being, the Paul Sorvino bad guy, there's something kind of like really there's kind of a flair to him, which I really like, and I like the creepy bit where change is good. It's like his big sales pitch. I don't know. Has its redeeming elements, and again, animation is upgraded tremendously. But yeah, story, not really reinventing the wheel, not really it's kind of hard to put Hey Arnold in an action position, but we kind of do it occasionally, like Grandma doing stuff at times. So it's not a big leap to make. So yeah.
Okay, so that leaves us with the adult animation, Dragon. Let's start with Aqua Teen Hunger Force: movie film for theaters. I assume you have never seen this.
Got nothing.
All right, that's totally fine. It's going in the Chili P tier. Basically, it's just like, it's kind of like, Dragon, this film literally goes against everything as far as the categories we laid out. As far as the animation upgrade, there literally is none. As far as the break in the status quo, I mean, it's like, technically the movie's supposed to be telling the origin story of the Aqua Teens, but my God, it gets so far off the rails. I mean, it literally is just a long episode of the show. I think the best part about it is that they have a let's all go to the lobby intermission that gets kind of like hardcore and violent and heavy metal, and that's a fun sequence. But or actually, Dragon, it's not a let's all go to the lobby. It's a turn off your cell phones thing. Where they get all hardcore metal about turning off your cell phones. But yeah, you know what? I think just as far as like, I gotta put it at the bottom. Just because I literally think this movie does nothing as far as like being anything but kind of like an elongated Aqua Teen episode. And also, it did have that stupid controversy with the light bright things, if you remember.
I don't.
All right. Well, I don't want to go over it again, but
right.
Okay. South Park, Dragon. This has to go on the Phantasm tier or the Blue Meth tier.
Come on, really? Is it that good?
It's absolutely that good. I mean, it's got everything. It's the animation upgrade is really there. It definitely breaks the formula with the musical thing. I think this might be the best example of breaking the formula and not feeling like just the episodes of the show. Like, this feels like a movie through and through. Like, even down to the fact that like the opening song has like literally like about 100 uses of the word fuck. Like Satan is kind of the sympathetic hero who gets an I want song. Saddam Hussein is in an abusive relationship with him and is the villain. There's a literal war going on with Canada. You see Kenny's face for the first time. I mean, yeah, this movie is Dragon. I gotta put it for me. I can't put it any lower than above Recess School's Out. For me personally, I think I think there's too much going for it. I think it's really iconic. I think it's very much a lot of people do think it's the Blue Meth of South Park. I mean, Recess School's Out is great, but I think this has a much bigger like event feel to it than that does. So I know you don't really have a horse in this race, so I'm sorry.
I mean, again, if you say it's like, if you believe it's better than the Powerpuff Girls movie, well then, or at least in terms of ranking, I don't know, would go.
Yeah, I think it's better than Powerpuff Girls.
Wait, so you put it above Recess School's Out, though?
I would put it. I'm tempted to put it up above Rugrats in Paris.
I mean, really, is it? It's that good? You think? Really? I mean, more than Recess School's Out.
More than Recess School's Out for sure. Rugrats in Paris. Here's the thing. It's like Rugrats in Paris is a sequel, so it's not necessarily got the accessibility factor going for it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that I would definitely say that. Yeah, I have to put it at, I don't know.
Well, okay, just let me ask you this from this. Remind me, in terms of the status quo shift again. I know we unmasked the kid, but I'm just saying, in terms of the story itself, is it really that different? Like, because I know here's the thing: they've done this all the time with like Futurama. Futurama gets like broken up into like the movie events and everything. Are you sure this doesn't feel like a movie event that they've just kind of like released all this?
This does not feel like one of their movie events, and I think the big reason for that is because of the soundtrack. Like, I'm telling you, Dragon, this was the predecessor to Book of Mormon. Like, Matt and Trey went hard on this feeling like a Disney Renaissance style Broadway musical. And that is where it, like, I will say the story is like, the war on Canada. It's not the biggest high stakes story the show's ever done, but I think the story is treated with the most severity and the most it's got the darkest tone that South Park's ever had. So you do feel the stakes more. Okay, well, my other dilemma is that I know that you're not going to be happy about this, but Beavis and Butthead is also on the Blue Meth tier for me.
Are you kidding me?
No, really? I'm not.
Both of them?
Both of them.
What? How is Beavis and Butthead Do America really reinvented?
Well, let's figure out where South Park goes. Okay, I'll put South Park here. So Beavis and Butthead, I think, is kind of the opposite of South Park, where this is very much the blue meth version of this show in the sense that, like, it is completely like a greatest hits of all the show's best gags and running jokes, but it also has the advantage of fucking beautiful animation, Dragon. I mean, they literally spent so much money just to do a dumb shot of Beavis and Butthead dancing to Roller Coaster of Love in a nightclub, and it looks just as good as the Beauty and the Beast fucking ballroom dance scene. I mean, it's like that is a level of commitment to the production values. The plot is very simple, but what I love about the plot in this movie is that it is like kind of like Dragon. It's basically like Beavis and Butthead just caused like an international incident, full-on war without even realizing it. They're literally just going after their TV the whole movie. They are completely oblivious to all the shit that's going down in the process because of them. And that's why I love this movie so much. I feel like this movie very much just exemplifies the formula of the show, runs with it. Frankly, I don't think you need to watch any other Beavis and Butthead media. I think this is like, and that's honestly why, to me, like, I know you're not going to put it above Phantasm, obviously, but I would make a case for this even going above SpongeBob, because I definitely think I like there's an argument to be made for Phantasm being the best Batman media ever, for sure. And I would also say the same thing for Beavis and Butthead Do America. I think Beavis and Butthead Do America is like for sure, definitively, like if you're going to watch Beavis and Butthead, you have to watch Beavis and Butthead Do America. Like it's got everything.
Okay, let me ask you two things.
Okay,
two things. One, for a fresh audience going in, honestly, it kind of bleeds into the same point. Like fresh audience going in, but as well as just like
this is the only Beavis and Butthead media I saw for a long time until I eventually picked up the Mike Judge collection DVDs. And yeah, it totally held up. I mean, for me, I was in love with this movie from the minute I saw it, even though I only had like kind of like a vague impression of who Beavis and Butthead were.
Okay, well, the other point then, the main thing I'm trying to lean to here is like, I think with Phantasm and SpongeBob, the element that they have that the other films don't, even if you factor in like Beavis and Butthead and South Park, is there's a universal appeal, which anyone and their mother could see those first two.
Yeah, and you know what? I do think that with Beavis and Butthead, they're like it's not necessarily a universal appeal, but I do think Beavis and Butthead, I'll put it this way, I think it's a lot more accessible than South Park. I do think that it's very much a PG-13. Like I could see this being like I could honestly see this being like a really good kind of like jumping off, like, you know, first raunchy cartoon that a dad shows his 12-year-old son. You know what I mean? And I do think there's a lot of appeal in that bracket.
Oh, yeah, I think
like certainly you don't want young kids watching this, but I absolutely think there's more universal appeal than the South Park movie.
I think the best you can hope for then is putting Beavis and Butthead over South Park, but definitely not above SpongeBob.
Okay, then it's got to go between Rugrats in Paris and SpongeBob then, because that's why I decided to put South Park, you know, below Rugrats in Paris, so we could potentially break it up. I mean, I get what you're saying. I will stick to that. SpongeBob, an argument could probably be made that it's the best of the show, but I do think it's less the best of the show and more kind of like the best amalgamation of the show. But like I think like what I'm saying is that there's probably standalone episodes of SpongeBob that are funnier as a whole than the movie. But with Beavis and Butthead, I do think that it is just straight up like if you need any piece of Beavis and Butthead media, like that is the go-to. And I really don't think you could say that with any of these other films. But yeah, for now, I will adhere to you. I will put it below SpongeBob. We have Beavis and Butthead in the blue meth tier in 4th position.
It's like hostage negotiating.
All right, and that leaves us with just a couple more. Do you have any stakes in the Simpsons movie?
Well, I mean, you know, the Simpsons movie, you know, it's you know, I've seen the Simpsons movie. You know, I love the Tom Hanks gag. love Albert Brooks anytime we can fit him into The Simpsons, especially as Hank Scorpio. But I know he's not Hank Scorpio in
I
this.
still argue that he should have just been Hank Scorpio. Wouldn't that have been amazing?
Yeah, but he would.
I truly think that would have elevated the movie if they just brought back Hank Scorpio to be the villain.
But that Hank Scorpio has nothing but nice things with to say about Homer Simpson. So
But I don't know. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So I don't know this.
Homer, I gotta tell you, I'm disappointed, but what you're doing is for the best.
Well, Homer, I gotta tell you, anyway. So yeah, I mean, this was widely publicized when the Simpsons movie was coming out. Again, this is very much kind of lit. Honestly, the big thing we should talk about is this really lit the fire far more than like Beavis and Butthead and South Park did. Like, again, because Simpsons was always teetering the line between, again, kind of became the American institution to the point where like the sitting presidents would say, we want to be less like the Simpsons. So the fact is,
more like the Waltons.
More like the Waltons, less like the Simpsons.
Oh my god!
So because of that,
they freaking roasted George Bush mercilessly because of that.
So that's the thing. Because of that, Simpsons had rocketed into the stratosphere, something everyone can get into. Just they push the edge sometimes. This movie definitely did push the edge. Like technically we have frontal nudity and we have pig crap as a big pivotal plot point, if I recall. So that's the thing. The movie's kind of pushing in that in terms of like the adult animation of it all, and it very much lit the flame for like, let's take the adult animated shows because we've tried it with the kind of the kiddie fare and it's never really been financially viable. Let's do it with the shows that we know people who can pay to go to the theater are seeing. Wahaha. Anyway, so I mean, the big through line that actually matters in the Simpsons movie, I think, is it's Barton and Homer's story, and the whole father-son story that's at play here, and the whole Flanders of it all. That's good.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards solid on this one.
Yeah, solid's fair. Yeah, I think solid with that.
I honestly think that the Simpsons movie, there's like kind of like a generation of people that grew up with it, and I didn't grow up with it. Like I was already like almost out of high school by the time this came out. So, like, I don't have the nostalgia, per se, that people do. And honestly, by the time that this movie came out, I was already very much done with The Simpsons as a TV show. So seeing this movie was more of just, like, a formality than anything else. And I gotta say, like, I do think the movie's solid enough. I just think that there's a lot of things about it that don't really work for me. I think the movie takes a lot of time, like for a movie that's supposed to be all centered on Springfield with the dome and everything. I think the movie takes a lot of time for that trip to Alaska that doesn't really go anywhere. That's kind of my big gripe with the pacing. And then I don't really think that I don't really think this movie balances its side characters well. And I mean, it's like you can make the argument where it's like there's a million side characters, so of course it's going to be hard to balance them all. But I would wager something like the Bob's Burgers movie, which we'll talk about in a minute, manages the side characters a little bit better. And I would wager something like, something like is just kind of like decent as Rugrats Go Wild. Like literally every character in that movie's got something to do. And you can't really say the same with The Simpsons. So yeah, I'm going to put it at the top of the solid tier, but I can't really rank it any higher than that. And that leaves us with the Bob's Burgers movie. And Dragon, I already said my piece on the Bob's Burgers movie. I think it's decent. I'm not going to put it in the Chili Pete here, but I honestly think it's kind of like the bare minimum of what you want from one of these movies. I do think it's got a solid animation upgrade. And I do think it's very like friendly for non-fans because honestly, I haven't really kept up with Bob's Burgers beyond like the first few seasons, and I still was fine as far as the continuity goes. And there's probably a couple characters that popped up that I wasn't really fully sure if they were like characters in the show or characters just introduced for the movie. But, it didn't really matter. You got a good grasp on who the characters were. I really wish that this movie would have gone harder with the music. I think if it would have gone harder with the music, I could have seen it maybe going up to the great tier. But unfortunately, it just does like the one song per act thing, which really it kind of like retroactively makes it feel even more like, 3 episodes stitched together. And so with that in mind, I think I'm honestly probably going to... Dragon, do you think there's an argument to be made about it being above Hey Arnold? I mean, I know you haven't seen it, but just based on what I've told you about it.
I mean, well, yeah, honestly, it sounds like the Halo movie and Bob's Burgers suffer from the same issue, in which it feels like it could have been episodes of the TV series. The only difference is, I mean, I'm gonna
And it's
guess.
also kind of like a save the neighborhood type movie.
Well, that's the thing, but again, our Hey Arnold's a show is literally about the neighborhood. Neighborhood's a very key character in that, so I would
But so is Bob's Burgers, though.
Well, I mean, again, I don't really know Bob's Burgers that well, so I mean, I'm gonna have to guesstimate there, but
Uh-huh.
I guesstimate it's a little bit more about like, is the restaurant in peril?
The restaurant is very much in peril, but the thing is, the restaurant is in financial peril pretty much every episode.
That's the thing. So I mean, based on that
Yeah.
logic, I would put it below the Hey Arnold movie.
Okay. Okay.
Again, I don't have a dog in that fight, but
No, I hear you.
I'm just saying,
All
like,
right.
column A equaling column B. You know, it's
Okay, Dragon. So I appreciate you having the patience to do this tier list with me. That leaves us with the blue meth is Mask of the Phantasm, SpongeBob, Beavis and Butthead, Rugrats in Paris, South Park, Recess School's Out, and the Powerpuff Girls movie. Which honestly, I think the blue meth is a little crowded, and I would bump down the Powerpuff Girls movie to great.
after all that time, you know, we're really talking about no, the Power of Ghost has to be in Blue Meth. And all right,
Are you fine with that?
I mean, does it matter at this point?
No, it doesn't really matter. Honestly, it's just for my own OCD of
Because
it.
there's no way I can put like South Park on the grade, so I guess we'll put
No.
Powerpuff Girls on the grade.
All right. So the great tier we have Powerpuff Girls, the Man Called Flintstone. Hold on, really quick, Dragon. Let's go through all these tiers and for the blue meth tier. What do you think makes these blue meth quality movies? For Beavis and Butthead and South Park, I'll speak to those. I absolutely think they are amalgamations of the show. They are like the best things the show has had to offer to a certain extent, especially in Beavis and Butthead's case. Beavis and Butthead is just such a classic formula, such iconic characters, and to just have them just kind of like seared down to their absolute essence, I think is wonderful. And then South Park, like I said, is kind of the opposite. South Park broke the mold in every way possible. Like, it was way more filthy than the TV show, but it was also way more wholesome and a full-blown like Broadway musical at the same time. Like, South Park is really firing on all cylinders, and it's really the accessibility that's the only thing kind of holding it back. So Dragon, what are the other ones for you?
Well, I mean, just in regards to like the blue meth, like why the blue meth things deserve to be there. Well, again, I mean, Recess School's Out again. It was a very, it was a very impactful kind of like sentiment on like Recess on the Recess franchise, and it kind of gave every one of those characters kind of a moment in the sun, and said a lot of really nice things in regards to Principal Prickly, which kind of gave you like, oh yes, our comic foil, and gave him some pathos, which was greatly appreciated. Rugrats in Paris again. That was a very in terms of everyone's really the big status quo shift of the whole bunch, in which that really did impact the show. Which I mean, they had to have figured, oh, we're going to do more episodes after this, but ultimately they probably should have thought, like, do we need to do more episodes after this? Can't we just end on like the implication? But no.
We've got to have money.
We've got to have money.
So even though everyone knows the Kimmy episodes are the worst episodes.
Unfortunately. Well,
everyone knows how I don't like dill pickles.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to settle that just with Kimmy. I want to settle that with the babysitter more than I did Kimmy. But
it was the era, though. It was the era. Dragon, when they introduced the Java Lava, it was all over.
Yeah, I guess it was. Yeah. So the SpongeBob SquarePants movie obviously is just that it's top tier. It just the humor is very pointed. It just kind of celebrated the spirit of the show in those 3 seasons that just worked, and were everything that was wonderful about SpongeBob. Like, you rarely ever, if ever, had a miss in those 3 seasons of SpongeBob, and the SquarePants movie. It was blue meth in terms of like, we've upped the animation quality, we've upped the the humor, and again, kind of the scope of it all. And we kind of bled to the live action. Like, we took SpongeBob above the surface, which was kind of a big deal as well. I don't know, it was a lot just kind of worked there, and the whole Krusty Krab 2 of it all. Just such a ridiculous, fun idea. So of course, Phantasm, just again, it is the perfect Batman movie. Ultimately, I mean, it's the simple way of putting it. I mean, it stands shoulder to shoulder with the live action greats. I know people come down on the whole Dark Knight versus the Batman or the Batman Begins of it all, but the point being the Phantasm.
The Dark Knight is clearly better in my opinion, but whatever.
Well, I'm just saying, wherever I'm just saying people are debating it. I'd say the Dark Knight.
I think those people have recency bias.
My point is,
I love Pattinson.
Remind me, weren't you one of those people, or were you as well, like on my side, like Dark Knight?
I was on your side with I think the Dark Knight is better. I've always thought the Dark Knight is better. Casey is the one who thinks that Batman is better.
Okay, well, there we go.
Shade, Casey.
So point being, Phantasm, just like the perfect entry point into like what was great about the animated series. Again, it was the animated series, just already looking beautiful and fantastic. Occasional foul up thanks to ACOM, but beyond the ACOM, you had like in Dong Yang doing their finest. You had like a love story that just was beyond compare, and you had. Again, just like some epic Batman was like that opening. Batman crashes through. I just get such a wonderful chill up my spine when Batman he crashes through the glass, and he just and he just like he steps on that guy who's under the table, just just reaching for the gun. Like that's Batman in like 2 seconds for it. He's gonna take out the bad guy with the gun. He hates people who use guns. Just like bang, crunch. That's him.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the Great Tier Dragon, I think the thing that defines all these movies is that while they can sort of end up feeling like like not the most cinematic, I do think they all have in common the fact that they were big status quo shifts for their respective franchises. A lot of them took some risks. I think with the Wild Thornberrys movie, you have the big status quo shift with Eliza. The Powerpuff Girls movie being a darker toned origin story. Man Called Flintstone, of course, being like a more kind of like a spy parody. And then the Chipmunks Adventure kind of being just a big sort of road movie. And then, of course, with the Rugrats movie, you have the dill of it all and just kind of like the bigger scale. Anything else to say about these just as a whole?
For the Great Tier.
Yeah.
Again, look, the Man Called, particularly just the Man Called Flintstone. Again, just really, I think brought out just a little something you didn't expect. Like something was always kind of there with the Flintstones. You kind of really put it on full display. That it's like Fred Flintstone is like he is Americana. He is he's a good man, and just seeing him kind of like. He's also very adaptable, which is why the Flintstones really worked. And then you could, in the modern Stone Age setting, you could put him in a lot of genres and it would work. And we put him in the spy genre, and it worked. It's like it's the fact that he was unaware for so much of the movie, and it's like he was put in like this hilarious position. Just really worked.
All right. Okay. Let's see. We have the solid tier Simpsons, Teacher's Pet, DuckTales. I think the thing that all three of these movies have in common is that they don't necessarily rise above and beyond their source material, but they are certainly very good representations of their source material. And I think for the people that grew up with all of them respectively, I think they have the potential to be kind of cult classics. Like, I don't think they're ever going to break into the mainstream and be like some of the best animated movies ever. But I think for the fans of the respective franchises, they are kind of holy grails. All right. So the decent ones, I think they all kind of have in common. Like they strive to do some of the stuff, but at the end of the day, they just don't have all of the formula that we're looking for. Like Rugrats Go Wild is kind of like a fun crossover, but it's not really much else. The Jetsons movie, it aims to have some upgraded animation and some higher stakes, but it also has some really weird 80s stuff in there. And the the aliens aren't great. Hey Arnold, Jesus Christ, fuck these bots. I'm sorry. Wow, this is a problem. I hope this doesn't become a reoccurring issue because this is literally like the worst that we've ever gotten it. I'm sorry, Dragon. Anything on your part with the decent tier?
I mean, again, you have like kind of like either usually it's like an aesthetic appeal with the decent films, and just kind of like there's a gleam of something kind of good there, in which you have like okay, we have a crossover appeal with Rugrats Go Wild. We have sort of like again kind of like we have a really solid premise with Hey Arnold. It's the fact that they've saved the whole like we're tearing. Well, to be fair, Hey Arnold had kind of done this before, but never on a scale like the neighborhood, like Arnold's block is going away. Like we had like the tree and we had the theater once, but never quite to this scale. And anyway, that's what I'm saying. Because I don't know, it's just ultimately it's that there's this there wasn't the decent's kind of where it has to be for a reason. That we aren't really kind of reaching for the stars. It's more like, okay, well, we put them on the big screen and we did it. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and kind of the same with Bob's Burgers. It's like, they did it, and I am glad it got the big screen treatment instead of going straight to Hulu or something. But at the end of the day, I don't really think it needed to be theatrical. And then finally, Dragon, the chili pea, the low of the lows. I think these are all kind of self-explanatory. I think Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Honestly, Dragon, you kind of got me with the argument that it's like, yeah, the meta humor is really literally the only thing it has going for it. There's not much else besides that. Doug's first movie is just kind of bland. I feel like that's like the most vanilla of these. Like it's not really offensive. It just doesn't do anything particularly well. The Tom and Jerry movie, for obvious reasons, just definitely fucks with the status quo. As we said, it kind of like the attention literally gets shifted from the main characters on top of them already kind of like having that terrible decision to talk. Aqua Teen Hunger Force is just kind of like, I think, the perfect example of a movie that just like, it honestly just feels like a troll of the movie. Like it feels exactly like the TV show in basically every way, shape, or form. Like there's no reason that even had to be a movie at all. So, and that's why it's on the bottom of the tier list, because at least with all the others, they tried. All right, any last words, Dragon? I'm sorry about the tier thing, buddy. I'm gonna use the excuse of like I knew you'd say no to it if I brought it up to you beforehand. So I'm sorry. Thanks for hanging in there with it. I promise you, next time I want to do something with this, I'll bring it up to you first.
I would hope so.
And yeah, Jesus Christ, folks, these bots. Like I truly hope this doesn't become an issue because it's not a good look. Dragon, any final thoughts here?
Well, I mean, we reflected on, kind of the small screen, hitting the big screen, and it was, it was kind of fun to kind of go back and kind of, reflect on, the films that kind of shaped us in many regards.
Yeah, I definitely think we did kind of like crack the root of the formula, Dragon. What do you think of my 4 categories? Do you think my 4 categories worked as far as like judging the criteria of these?
Well, yes and no. I mean, again, have we really just kind of, I think, have we not been bogged down with tiers? Perhaps, but I mean, I don't know, they kind of factored in, so maybe not as much as I initially intended, but it worked, I guess.
Okay. And my God, I'm also really behind on these as well. This has not been the best podcast from a production stated point of view. I'm sorry.
No.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us. I mean, literally the only people depressed me enough who have joined us are just like bots, very inappropriate bots that need to go away. But
bots have to go somewhere too.
All right. And on that note, have a good night, everyone. I'm a goofy goober, yeah.
We're all goofy goobers, yeah.
Goober, 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 yeah.